All right, any moment now, we're expecting to hear from President Trump as he gathers for dinner with the Republican senators. We'll bring that to you live when it happens. It's been a super busy Friday. Let's get into it. I'm Elizabeth Vargas, and America's News starts right now. Tonight, Trump's director of national intelligence is accusing the Obama administration of conspiracy, manufacturing intelligence to show Russia interfered with the 2016 election. She calls it treason. Can she prove it? Then late today, the DOJ formally asks a judge to release Jeffrey Epstein's grand jury testimony. Former Epstein lawyer Alan Dershowitz says, why stop there? He says everything should be released. Plus, the moment that made cold-played a verb.
All right, come on, you're okay? Oh, what?
The CEO of a billion-dollar tech company caught cozying up to the head of HR on a concert kiss cam. The moment that broke the internet, coming up. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. It's a busy Friday. We begin tonight in Washington, where the White House is making two gestures of transparency on two stories that, in part, are defining the age of Trump. First, on Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted sex offender haunting Trump from the grave and fracturing his MAGA base. Since the DOJ reported 10 days ago there's no evidence of a client list and they're not releasing anything more. Well, damage control is now in full swing as Attorney General Pam Bondi late today asked a judge to release grand jury testimony in the Epstein case. The move comes after President Trump ordered her to do so last night. But don't hold your breath or bet the farm expecting major revelations anytime soon. It could take months of legal wrangling to even get this testimony, and even then, it would only represent a fraction of the so-called Jeffrey Epstein files. It would not include the videos, the photographs, the recordings, the FBI witness interviews, the texts, the emails. You get the drift. The other attempt at transparency has to do with Russia. The now debunked speculation that President Trump colluded with Moscow during the 2016 election. Well, what else new could there be to say about this? Well, Trump's director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, announced this afternoon that she has documents that show what she calls a, quote, treasonous conspiracy. She claims the Obama administration manufactured intelligence to push the narrative that Russia was interfering in the election. Gabbard says she will turn over whatever documents she has to the Department of Justice. The suggestion that the Kremlin worked to get Trump into the White House reverberated for years. Trump's opponent, Hillary Clinton, certainly believed it.
President Putin hated you so much that it was personal, that he was determined to thwart your ambitions. Do you buy that?
Well, he certainly interfered in our election, and it was clear he interfered to hurt me and to help my opponent.
All right, let's go to NewsNation's Joe Khalil, live for us on Capitol Hill. Joe, a Republican-led Senate Intelligence Committee found that the Kremlin did wage an aggressive effort to interfere in the 2016 election. Marco Rubio, now Secretary of State, was chair of that investigation. Tulsi Gabbard is now saying that report is wrong. What is she citing as proof of this conspiracy?
Well, we haven't seen much yet in the way of evidence because what she presented was essentially just this press release laying out what you have, alleging that there were several people within the intelligence spheres from the Obama administration that sort of changed their intelligence assessments. What she did say is that the presidential daily brief at one point tried to, she says, or alleges that the Obama administration tried to hide that.
Joe, I'm so sorry. This is a very important story. We'll get back to you in a moment, but we're going to go to President Trump right now at this dinner.
People at 2 o'clock in the morning, sir, we have 3 hard no's. They said it's 2:30 in the morning. That's okay. That was an early one. And we did this for 3 or 4 nights in a row, right, John? Between the House and the Senate, there were a few hard no's, but almost always they came through. And we got things done that few people could have gotten done. And this is like a easy night because we're here. And I just said, let's celebrate. So who's ever in town, come on over. and a lot of you came over, and we appreciate it. But we're just here to really take a little bit of a successful bow and productive. The production that we had over the last 6 months was spectacular. I don't think anybody's done more. That's all of you together. And there's never been anything like it in terms of Republican Senate majorities in all of American history. You know that. We went back very carefully and we checked, and nobody's done so much so fast, and probably you could say with so few votes. I mean, we had 53, which is not bad, but that's not easy, is it? So let me begin by congratulating all of you. It's a truly amazing group of my friends. And we have a few of our friends that were in their districts and states, and they said, don't come back, just relax. But we wanted to do this. The Senate GOP confirmed our cabinet with record speed. It was actually record speed. And now we'll go a little bit faster because maybe one of these weeks you just hold them all back. We'll get everybody in, right, John? But we really did. We have a lot of great people, a lot of really fantastic people, and they're doing a tremendous job. You stayed in session for a marathon 10 consecutive weeks, and that's the longest of any Senate in 15 years, and you held over 400 votes, more than any Senate in 35 years, and they were successful votes. And just a few weeks ago, we had the biggest victory of them all when you passed the One Big Beautiful Bill, and I just signed it into law, and I call it the Great Big Beautiful Bill, but I got overridden by a couple of my people. They said, let's call it the One Big, but it is really the Great Big. And we delivered the largest tax cut in American history, the largest spending cut in American history, the most deregulation in American history, and the largest border security investment in American history, and the biggest success on the border in American history. As you know, last month we had, and we went from millions of people coming in, we had 0 illegals coming into our country, and we're trying to get our country straightened out, and you can't do that if they're going to come in by the tens of thousands. We had 0. Now, I'm not even sure I can believe 0, but it was a very liberal group, as you know, that keeps that tabulation, and they gave us a 0, so I think we'll take it, but it certainly wasn't very many. And the One Big Beautiful Bill delivered on more Republican promises than any single piece of legislation that's ever been voted on before. And I want to thank Senate Majority Leader John Thune. Again, John, what you did is amazing, record-setting, and you're a good man, too. You're a very good man. He really is. Majority Whip John Barrasso. John, thank you. What a man. What a guy. We got along from day one, right? He knew more about the medical stuff, and I said, what do you think about this, that? You did a fantastic job, and for a long time, Republican Policy Committee Chair, Shelley Moore Capito. Shelley, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Shelley. Senate Finance Committee Chairman, Mike Crapo. Mike, good job. You know your stuff. I was asking him some very tough questions on taxes. You always had the answer, some of which I didn't like, but that was okay. But you always had it. You know your business. Thank you, Mike. Great job. Senate Budget Committee Chairman, a gentleman named Lindsey Graham, just took about a big lead in the polls. You're leading big. That's pretty good. Lindsey Graham. And all of you, I mean, just everyone in this room is special. You're all friends, and you've just been incredible people. Because, again, getting all of these votes with, what you can't lose 2. And we had a couple, you can't lose 2. And we actually had it where we were down much closer than this. And we said, we're a heart attack away from losing the Senate. We were just hoping everybody's going to stay good and healthy, right, John? But we had some pretty close moments. But I don't think anybody's ever come close to doing this with a pretty tight majority, to put it nicely. So now we have 3. and I think we have a chance in the midterms. I don't understand why they say that when you win the presidency, you always almost automatically lose the midterms, because nobody's had a more successful period of time than we have. So based on that, we should do great, and we'll see. But nobody's done more than we have as a group. It's not me, it's all of us together. And I'd like to thank Vice President J.D. Vance, who's here someplace. J.D., thank you. And he's been so terrific, J.D., and we appreciate it. And you helped us a lot during those late evenings over the last 3 nights. And you really have been tremendous. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio, this man is traveling all over the place. He's always traveling. He's going to different countries. He loves it. He's a natural. He is a natural. There's never going to be anybody better than the job you're doing right now. We appreciate it. We have some big things coming up, too. And Marco, we have some big things coming up, right? Some big things and some very positive things. And thank you very much. Doing a fantastic job. Who would have thought? We fought like he was so tough. Ted, he was tough on that debate stand, right? And you were very tough on the debate stand, too. You guys were brutal. Who would think they're my friends? And now they're my friends. Well, they said it about Lincoln. He brought in all his enemies. Well, I don't know. They were sort of enemies, but they were very talented people. I want to tell you that.
All right, we're going to monitor the president's comments as he congratulates Republican senators and members of his cabinet on the work that he's managed to get accomplished thus far in his administration. But let's go back to Joe Khalil, who's right outside, actually, where that dinner is happening. Joe, we were talking about these pretty incredible allegations made by the director of the DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, today, that the Obama administration, members of the Obama administration, had engaged in a treasonous conspiracy. Is Director Gabbard supplying any proof to back up those allegations?
What she has said, Elizabeth, in the release that she put out is that there are documents, there are emails that essentially show this. There was one narrative about Russian efforts to interfere in the election that denied that they played any sort of significant role. And then after the 2016 election, she alleges that her documents and emails will show the assessment on Russia changed. And it changed for political and corrupt reasons so that the Obama administration could lay a pretext by which later Democrats could prosecute President Trump through the impeachment and everything else. That is a very serious allegation that Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard is making. The evidence she claims to have, we have not seen, she has not shared. And there are, as you pointed out already, several Senate Democrats who are pointing to the fact that there was a bipartisan investigation in the Senate that sort of unanimously was accepted in that Russia, in fact, was trying in many different ways to interfere, whether it be social media or influence or other ways, that they didn't necessarily change votes or hack voting machines or anything like that that may have impacted the actual outcome. But in terms of their influence campaign, that is where it is universally accepted that Russia did try several efforts in 2016 and in 2020 and beyond that as well.
Right, and are still trying, according to at least U.S. intelligence. It'll be interesting to see if Tulsi Gabbard can back these allegations up with some proof. I want to switch now to the controversy that's embroiled the administration and Trump's own base. This is, of course, Jeffrey Epstein. Trump has officially filed a lawsuit now, late today, like literally within the last couple of hours, against the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch, after the newspaper report yesterday about this bawdy birthday letter that the Wall Street Journal alleges President Trump, or then, Donald Trump, ordinary citizen, gave to Jeffrey Epstein. We're talking 25 years ago.
Yeah. And you're right. There was a lot of news that came out at the very end of the evening here at the White House. So we'll start there. The president has officially, as he promised to do last night, filed this lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal, its parent company, Rupert Murdoch, the journalists that wrote the story. And he is asking for $10 billion with a B in this lawsuit. He alleges that they made it up, that this story was totally fake, it never existed, and it is libelous. And so that is the heart of the lawsuit filed in southern Florida today. It does center around this controversial story, this letter that, as you pointed out, it was said that Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's then girlfriend, asked friends of his when he turned 50 years old to send letters. The Wall Street Journal reports that President Trump sent a letter that had some adult content in it with an outline of a naked woman at the time. Again, President Trump has denied that vehemently, as has the White House. So we are here now with a full denial and an actual lawsuit ahead of the Wall Street Journal. Separately, you also had the Attorney General today officially making the ask of the courts to unseal parts of the witness testimony from the grand jury relating to the Epstein case back in 2019 and 2020. It is a step that the White House believes is one that is in the sake of transparency. Their base has been demanding all the files be released. Critics of this move, Elizabeth, say it's not actually going to show anything important or hold anybody accountable. It may be a whole lot of nothing. This is what Ro Khanna, a Democrat who's been pushing for the release of these files, said last night.
Here's the problem. The grand jury testimony is largely about Epstein and Maxwell, not about all the rich and powerful men who abused, assaulted, and abandoned young women. Those people are still being protected. And by the way, the courts usually don't release grand jury testimony.
So we'll see how the courts handle that, Elizabeth. But again, obviously, this story not going anywhere, and the White House now on the offensive, sort of keeping it in the headlines today.
All right, Joe Khalil, thank you so much. So, as Joe said, this controversy is blown up. And actually, polls show a majority of Americans think it's all been mishandled, because people actually want to know what's in those files and why they've been kept secret now for years. Moments ago, I spoke with Jeffrey Epstein's former attorney, Alan Dershowitz. He's also the author of this new book called The Preventive State. Dershowitz said everything should be released and that the public should know everything. So, Alan, what do you make of this move to release grand jury testimony? There are a few caveats to what Trump ordered the Attorney General to release, any and all, quote, pertinent testimony, and only after a court approves it. These transcripts include testimony from victims and witnesses, many of whom might not want their names out.
Well, alleged victims, let me tell you a story. There's a woman named Sarah Ransom who probably testified in front of the grand jury. She wrote letters to Maureen Callahan of the New York Post saying she had actual videotapes of Donald Trump, of Hillary Clinton, of Bill Clinton, of Richard Branson, all having sex with young children. And she submitted a sworn affidavit to the FBI. And she had to admit she made the whole thing up. So there are probably lots and lots of people in the grand jury testimony and in the FBI report that have made up stories in order to get money. This Sarah Ransom ought to be investigated and prosecuted. She shouldn't be protected. She's not a victim. She's a perpetrator, even though the court has protected her and disclosed this information. I happen to know about it, and I got the original letters that she wrote to the New York Post, but there are probably others like that too. So it's a mixture. There are people who may have been truthfully accused, falsely accused, and let's let everything go out there. But the one thing we can't do is just have the accusations without the information, without the accusers that would allow the public to draw inferences about who's telling the truth and who's not.
So this sounds like a minefield.
It is a minefield. And, it's a minefield that has to be gone through very carefully. President Trump is right when he says you don't just release information about accusations. Some of them may be false. Look, I had my own experience. I was accused, and then the woman admitted that she may have mistaken me or confused me or misidentified me and withdrew her accusation, her lawsuit. And so that may have happened in other cases as well. So we know that there are lawyers who have profited from this, and there are profited from this. And so we have to be very careful. But I think the answer is to release everything, everything. From day one, the day I was first accused, I said, release everything. I waive all confidentiality, all privacy. Let it all be out there.
Right.
Let the public decide who's telling the truth.
So the grand jury testimony is just a small fraction of the Epstein documents. There are bank records, phone records, surveillance records, flight logs, interview notes, even Jeffrey Epstein's autopsy report. All of that remains under seal right now. Why?
It shouldn't. There's no reason to keep the autopsy under seal. The flight logs have all been released, and they don't show anything incriminating. You know, they show, obviously, people like Bill Gates and Bill Clinton and presidents of Harvard and other people on his plane, inevitably, and his lawyers were all on his plane, but they don't show them on his plane with young people or on the way to the island or anything like that. So we have to be careful to distinguish between evidence of acquaintanceships. I knew Epstein. I was his lawyer. Bill Gates knew him. Fidel Castro knew him. And obviously Donald Trump knew him. But we all terminated our relationship. Most of us did. Bill Gates didn't, but I did and others did as soon as the legal proceedings were over in the first case. So just because somebody's name is associated with Epstein doesn't in any way imply guilt. And so we have to be very careful what conclusions we draw.
There is a move to have Epstein's collaborator Ghislaine Maxwell, testify before Congress. She says she's willing to do it. There are several Republican senators today calling on Congress to bring her in. Do you think she should testify?
Absolutely. She knows everything. I mean, she is everything. I know a lot, but I know what he told me. I was his lawyer, and I can't reveal stuff that he told me in confidence, but there are no great deep dark secrets. But she knows everything. She's known him for, I don't know, close to half a century. She was his girlfriend. She was the one who arranged all the trips and travel of all the people who went to the island, who went to the house, who went to the place in New Mexico, who went to his place in Paris. So she's the key to everything, and there's no reason why they shouldn't give her use immunity, which means she can still be prosecuted if she commits perjury, but she would then have to testify about everything, and she should.
In the meantime, President Trump today is threatening to sue Rupert Murdoch over the Wall Street Journal reporting last night that President Trump, way back in, I think, the year 2000, may have drawn, according to the Wall Street Journal, some sort of racy picture with a funny body note attached to it. This was, by the way, according to the Wall Street Journal, 3 years before Jeffrey Epstein was arrested for having sex with minors. You were also reported in this Wall Street Journal story to have written a note for the birthday photo album. Do you remember any of this? Do you remember what you wrote? Did the Wall Street Journal have its facts straight when it included you in that part of the story?
Well, when they called me, they at least called me. They didn't apparently call President Trump. They called me, and I said, well...
No, they did call President Trump. He denied it to them, but then they went on with it anyway. But they did call him.
Well, what I said is I have no recollection. It's 23 years ago. It was 2002, I think, his 50th birthday, maybe 2003. And I said, send me my alleged letter with my signature, and I will tell you in a minute if it's my real signature. I have no recollection of it. I've, written since that time probably 10,000 letters and, spoken to 10,000 people. And they said they couldn't send me my signature, that somehow that would disclose sources. And I said, no, it wouldn't, please. And finally, I spoke to the Wall Street Journal guy today, very nice guy, and he said he would try to send me the signature so that I can confirm or deny whether it's true. It doesn't sound like me. I mean, it's very clever, vanity unfair, but neither my wife nor I remember that, and I have a pretty good memory. So it's very possible somebody made up a book and put famous people's names in it with fake letters. That's certainly possible, but it's also possible that I wrote something for his 50th birthday. I knew him. I was his lawyer. I went to seminars. Nobody knew he was doing anything improper. At his seminars with the presidents of Harvard, the provosts, professors, the man who decoded the genome, Nobel Prize winners, everybody looked forward to those seminars once a month at Harvard. And so that was the period of time when Jeffrey Epstein was thought to be a philanthropist and smart guy who brought it together.
Right. Alan Dershowitz, interesting. President Trump also asked to see the drawing that he was reported by the Wall Street Journal to have made, and was also told that he could not see it. Alan Dershowitz, to be continued, I'm quite sure. Great to have you join us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
All right, our next guest has something to say about the Epstein saga and the president's new lawsuit filed late today against the Wall Street Journal. But first, there's this blockbuster announcement that CBS is pulling the plug on one of its flagship and storied shows, a show with a history in recent years of being very critical of President Trump. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert is being canceled. Its final episode will air next May. That is despite the show being the highest rated in its time slot with around 2.5 million viewers. The Late Show has been on the air now for 3 decades, beginning with David Letterman back in 1993. So why the abrupt ending? Colbert himself wasn't even told about the cancellation until 2 nights ago. Now, some are blaming it on the changing media landscape and late-night television. Fewer people are frankly watching. They're mostly streaming or thumbing through YouTube videos. Others, of course, however, are blaming political forces. Stephen Colbert is one of President Trump's most scathing and vocal critics. And just days ago, Colbert returned from a summer hiatus with a monologue about parent company Paramount's $16 million settlement with President Trump over the editing of that 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris. So if the issue is just the ratings or the expense of the show, why not just fire the host? Why kill the entire franchise? Well, NewsNation media contributor Colby Hull joins me now. Okay, Colby, CBS says it's canceling Colbert purely because of economics and a business decision. But if it costs too much and the audience is shrinking, do you buy that explanation?
Well, I think 2 things can be true. I think mostly the optics of the timing of this is a disaster for CBS. Yes, I think bloated TV shows like this don't make as much economic sense. There's not the shared experience. People mostly watch comedy sketches on their phones, on Instagram or TikTok, what have you, YouTube, as you said. But the larger issue here is that 2 days after he mocked Paramount for the $16 million bribe to make nice to President Trump so that they could get the sale through the FCC, he gets canceled. It really looks like a lot of people believe that this is corporate America cozying up to administration and the chilling effect of a president who's, basically say, do it my way or go the highway. And, people that want to make money, corporate America, succumbing to that. And it's a dangerous trend for corporate America to basically express fealty and bend the knee to, a president in power, regardless if it's Trump or whomever else.
If it was just business, as CBS says, why not trim costs? Why not go to 4 nights a week instead of 5? In other words, there doesn't seem to be or have been any effort to figure out a way to do the show cheaper, have everybody take a pay cut.
That's the $1 million question, or really the $100 million question. Apparently, that's the reported budget of this show. They had a bloated staff of 220 people that did put this show together, which, Greg Gutfeld rates higher with a staff of about 15 people. Greg Gutfeld's not my style of humor, but he's very popular, rates well. And part of that appeal is that he's authentic, he's down to earth. I think you could easily do the same Colbert show for a third of the cost, right? And it would make money. So your point is well taken. Like, it's not just a business decision here, or at least it's not just an economic financial decision. I do think, however, that sort of old school late night shows, the things that we grew up with, whether it was Johnny Carson or Letterman, Jay Leno, Colbert, these are the things that are sort of going away. There's not the shared experience. But mostly, I think this is Sherry Redstone trying to get a deal done so she can retire with $500 million or whatever profit she's going to make from the sale of Paramount to Skydance, and getting rid of one of Trump's most vocal critics. And Trump sort of spiking the football on Truth Social today, saying how happy he was that Warren got fired.
Yeah, really reveling in that news. All right, I want to ask you about this lawsuit that President Trump just filed literally within the last hour or so against the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch. Number one, it's very unusual for a sitting president to do this. His previous lawsuits against ABC and CBS were both while he was a candidate. And then number two, this lawsuit for a massive sum of money also names Rupert Murdoch, who's been a longtime ally of his.
It's fascinating. Historians can correct me, but I can't remember a sitting president ever suing a media outlet for a report that they didn't care for. And I think this is a dangerous game for a variety of reasons. Joe Khalil said it perfectly. This gives a story that had more legs. We're going to be talking about this for some time because there's going to be this discovery. It could backfire. The documents that are forthcoming could hurt Trump as much as they exonerate him. But while he's very angry at Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch owns another outlet, and that's Fox News, has been very kind to Trump on this issue, has largely ignored it. So, if Rupert Murdoch wants to play dirty, he could easily turn Fox News against Trump and make this much, much worse for him. So this is a dangerous game that Trump is playing. It's unprecedented, and I think it's more likely to backfire, at least in terms of keeping the story alive for much, much longer. It was just a week ago Saturday that he told everyone to stop talking about it. That didn't work, and now he's put a bigger spotlight on it. So,
yeah. What are the chances, super quick, what are the chances he's going to win?
I'm not a legal expert, but I think slim to nil. Defamation lawsuits are almost impossible to prove. The goal here would be a settlement, but I suspect Murdoch's going to fight dirty, and this will.
All right, I have to ask you about my favorite topic, and that is the married CEO of a company called Astronomer. It's a billion-dollar tech company. He was caught canoodling with the head of HR at his own company at a Coldplay concert, literally on the jumbo screen. The video of the couple realizing they were on said jumbo screen, they're panicking, they dive down. That video has gotten millions and millions of views and about as many comments. He's married. This is the head of HR. Wow.
It's crazy. I think I am personally responsible for like 100 of those millions of views because every time it's come up on my feed, I've watched it again because it's perfect schadenfreude. Like here are two powerful CEO and the chief people officer who are married, who are caught cheating. And it's shameful. It's gross. It's sort of disgusting, but it's hilarious to see them. And the CEO put out a statement sort of admitting his fault and was embarrassed. But then he had the temerity to blame Coldplay for making this public thing. And Coldplay is not at fault here. You're the one that did this. And honestly, I think it's schadenfreude. Everyone's delighted to see a cheater get caught. So you know what? Sit in it. Live with it. Here we are pointing.
Well, the company has announced it's launched an investigation into the whole matter, which, by the way, Colby, is going to be delegate since the head of HR is the subject of the investigation.
The chief people officer is going to sit this one out. That's hilarious.
They're usually the people doing the investigation, HR. Yeah. Okay, it's breaking the internet, inspiring a lot of commentary to be continued on all those fronts. Colby Hall, always great to talk to you. Thanks, and have a great weekend.
You too.
All right, switching gears now to news that is actually quite upsetting. Coming up, a deadly blast in Los Angeles has claimed the lives of 3 sheriff's deputies. What happened? What went so wrong? We're live in LA with the very latest. All right, to Los Angeles County, where an investigation is underway into an explosion that killed 3 sheriff's deputies. It happened at a sheriff's department training facility at around 7:30 local time this morning. Sources tell our affiliate, KTLA, that the blast occurred while deputies were moving an unexploded device that had just been recovered the night before. The sheriff stressed this afternoon this is an active crime scene and much remains unknown.
This is, unfortunately, the largest loss of life for us as the LA County Sheriff's Department since 1857. There's a lot more that we don't know than what we do know. But our intent is to look at this from the very beginning and figure out what is it exactly that caused this tragic event.
Sheriff Luna noted that the scene remained unstable for hours, with the LAPD bomb squad disarming devices just minutes before the sheriff briefed reporters. Governor Gavin Newsom's office says it's offering full state assistance while closely monitoring the situation. Attorney General Pam Bondi called it a horrific incident and said federal agents are assisting on the scene. Let's bring in NewsNation correspondent Nancy Liu live from Los Angeles. Nancy, what more do we know now?
Well, Elizabeth, behind me, you can see all flags lowered here at the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Obviously, a very heavy day for this agency after the loss of 3 highly trained bomb experts in an incident that's now under active investigation. This explosion happened early this morning at the department's expansive training center, which is in East LA, as a unit was moving a device which was recovered from a call last night, reportedly in Santa Monica. Now, the blast happened within a parking area used by the department's elite Special Operations Bureau, and the force actually shattered the windows of numerous squad cars that were parked nearby throughout the facility. Now, multiple agencies are investigating exactly what happened, along with how and why. The losses, they are hitting hard in the department, especially among those who knew the deputies and their highly specialized work. Take a listen.
One in particular that I work with for well over 10 years, almost his entire adult family is employed by the Sheriff's Department in one capacity or another. They've all spent their entire adult lives serving their community, and for him to be gone like this, I don't even know what to say.
As the years go on, you realize how dangerous it is, and it's something that's always in the back of your mind, but you do this job for a reason. You don't really think about it day to day.
The bomb experts killed had a combined experience of 74 years in the field, all very experienced bomb experts. The Sheriff's Department has set up counseling services for anyone in the department, particularly for members of the bomb and arson unit. Elizabeth?
Yeah, tough loss for that unit. Some very experienced officers. Nancy Liu, thank you, reporting live. All right, coming up for us, you knew it was only a matter of time before Jurassic Park became reality. Now another extinct species could soon be brought back from the grave. And don't forget, you can download our NewsNation app for the very latest news on the top stories of the night. "600 years ago on the Pacific island we now call New Zealand, the last giant 500-pound flightless bird called a moa let out its final squawk. The moment was not recorded on video. The whole species was gone, basically extinct, hunted off the face of the earth by humans. But now some modern-day humans are bringing the moa back. A lab named Colossal Biosciences is resurrecting the big bird. You may remember that we featured this same company on our show just a few months ago. Back then, they had successfully brought back dire wolves. They did it by digging up some ancient DNA from dire wolves and hacking the genetic code of the common gray wolf. And now the moa is about to get the same Lazarus treatment, this time with funding by none other than Lord of the Rings director Peter Jackson. Jackson is a Kiwi and has long been obsessed with the emu-like creatures, to the point where he's given the lab $15 million to speed up their efforts. "Movies are my day job," he says. "The moa is the fun thing I do." So, is mankind ready for the moa's return? And what's after the moa? The dodo? The extinct bird that went extinct, the bird that went extinct in 1681, or the saber-toothed tiger, which died out at the end of the last ice age? Joining us to tell us more is Ben Lamb. He's the co-founder and CEO of Colossal Biosciences. Ben, thanks so much for being here. So,
thanks for having me.
First things first, because I was so taken with the direwolf pups, I want to check in on them. How are they doing? How big are they? Where are they? Can you say?
They're in a secure, expansive ecological preserve. We get a lot of excitement about our work, so we don't exactly share location, but they're on 2,000 acres, and they're doing great. Romulus and Remus are over 100 pounds, so they've more than doubled in size since we made the announcement, and they're trending about 20 to 25% bigger than normal gray wolves, which is right where dire wolves were, and they're doing amazing. And they just got integrated with Khaleesi, the female that we birthed in January, so she just joined the pack, and so now we've got a pack of 3 dire wolves all running in a semi-wild environment on our preserve, and they're just doing awesome.
Okay, and they're not going to get loose and start eating humans, right?
They're not going to get loose. They're not going to start eating humans. We have a 10-person animal care team that's fully there all the time. Secure perimeters. I know that we always get the Jurassic Park joke. We've taken better precautions than they did in the movie.
Okay, thank goodness. All right, why the moa? The moa birds are massive, double the size of a human being. They have massive claw-like feet and beaks. Why did you pick them?
Yeah, so, I got introduced to Peter Jackson, and Peter Jackson was really excited about the work that we're doing. He knew we were working on the mammoth, the Tasmanian tiger, and then the dodo, and he was very upset that we were not working on the moa. And if you don't know what the moa, you nailed it. It's a 500-pound bird. It's about 12 to 13 feet tall, and it was actually rumored to be very docile, and it was important to the ecological function of kind of the canopy in New Zealand, and we as humanity hunted it to extinction. So if we can ever bring back species that we as mankind had a role in their extinction, while also building technologies to help conservation, help to return something that's sacred back to the Maori people, the indigenous people of New Zealand, all while kind of inspiring kids, it kind of checked all of the boxes. And so when Peter said that we would do it, or asked if we would do it, we said, of course we would. And then he offered to accelerate the efforts with funding.
And you say it's sacred to the Maoran people. Why is it sacred?
Yeah, so they have a class of animals called tonga, which are different sacred species, some of which are extinct, some of which are still alive, that they just revere as important to their culture. And so we're actually working with the Ngāi Tahu Research Center in the South. And this is the first ever project that we've done that's been 100% indigenous led. And so it's kind of interesting because they're almost like our board of directors on the project, and they're actually helping us make every single decision that we make because it's so important to their culture.
And just out of curiosity, what does it eat? These things are massive.
Yeah, so they were herbivores. So they were herbivores, right?
Okay, so they're just vegetarians.
You don't have to worry. Yeah, they're complete vegetarians. They ate leaves and grasses and shrubs and other plants that still exist in New Zealand. And so their ecosystem still exists. People love them, and they were a pretty docile bird for at least everything that we understand from oral traditions and written history. But what's really important is that they were this kind of sacred icon of New Zealand that was lost because of decisions that humans made. And so we're just super excited to be working with the Ngāi Tahu Research Center and Peter on the project.
I take it you're not going to have the big birds living with the dire wolves.
No. Dire wolves were predominantly a North American species, mostly in America. So they were like an American wolf that was obviously made in America. And then our moas will be reintroduced back into lands that the Ngāi Tahu Research Center allocates on the South Island of New Zealand. So they will not interact, except in the lab, some of the same people will work on the project.
And none of these animals that you're bringing back from the dead, so to speak, through this, I mean, not literally, but sort of figuratively, they can't reproduce.
Yeah, so we actually have the ability to biocontain them to a specific species, so we can make sure that they only can reproduce with themselves. We also can engineer in an additional genetic diversity so that we can create populations that can reproduce. And so the moa, for example, our goal is to build sustainable populations with enough genetic diversity that they can thrive on their own, where Colossal doesn't have to make more for New Zealand. They can actually just build up their own flock over time.
Okay, and because this is good for the environment somehow to have dire wolves now and moas running around?
So what's great about de-extinction, right, is a couple things. One is it builds a systems model. So we're in this biodiversity crisis. We're going to lose up to 50% of all biodiversity in the next 25 years. So we need new tools and technology. So when you work on ancient DNA and genetic rescue, you actually build technologies that can help wolves today and can help bison today and can help elephants today and can help all these different species, including birds. So all the technologies that we make on the path to the moa or the dodo or the mammoth or even the dire wolves, those technologies we open source for other conservationists to use for saving existing species today. And then then you've got this halo effect that kids just love.
All right, Ben Lamb. Always something with you guys. Come on the show when you've got another species you're about to bring back into existence. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, back to the top story of the hour. President Trump, as we said, is suing the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch over that Epstein report. So what happens now? Chris Cuomo joins me live. We'll discuss. All right, Chris Cuomo joins me live, taking notes on his show that's coming up in just a few minutes. I'm sure you're tackling the big lawsuit, like writing down like a good student, all the things, the smart things you're going to say.
You want to hear something? You want to hear something that I would have never told you when we were at ABC News?
What?
But now I can tell you. This is what I was just doing when you came to me. I was writing a line that I had an opinion about something that's going on with the reaction to Epstein. And I was saying, but first, I have to take a Ginsu to it. And I was thinking, Elizabeth, will they know what a Ginsu is? Or am I too old? Do you remember those cheap knives they used to sell on TV?
The TV
Ginsu
ads
knives?
were, it's like every commercial break there was one of those ads.
Tomatoes, cans.
Yeah.
But I think they're not going to know. I think I'm too old.
I think
people
you
don't
are.
know Ginsu.
I think
that's
I am.
what I was thinking.
I still have a Ginsu knife and I use it. How's that? I'll take you and I'll one up you.
Forever
on that
Blade.
one.
Forever Blade. Forever Blade. Just proving it true.
The best.
So
all right, listen.
I'm going to be looking at the lawsuit, but that's what I was thinking about. That's the truth.
Well, have a wonderful show. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll be watching. It's all yours, my friend.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.